ended up doing is taking a split ring. Here's the main line coming in, bead to protect the main guide on the end of the pole. So I put the bead on so your ceramic or synthetic guide doesn't get torn up. Corkscrew swivel, split ring, about a foot-long leader or so. Lure, which this is happens to be a buzz bomb. Make sure on this there's a diagram which says which way to the hook. So the hook goes that way. Here's the hook. A little rubber stopper, bead, another corkscrew swivel, and a J-hook. And that's all you need, right? That should slide around freely. Let's see what it looks like in the water. So when this thing free falls, see how it just flutters like that? Probably more ideal not to have any kind of apparatus above this particular lure, just because it's going to throw off the action. But for all intents and purposes, for quick rigging, which if you're on a head boat or you have a lot of people or you just don't want to mess around with it, you can rig them up like this. See how it works. I think it should work pretty good. Red Irish Lord. Barely got him right on the lip. Pretty. One of the most beautiful sculpin. It takes years of practice to get accustomed to vertical jigging techniques and finesse fishing. When I first started jigging, I started cast jigging and vertical jigging for smallmouth bass back in the Great Lakes, ponds, rivers, and big water. So I learned how to finesse fish from an early age. And it takes years to kind of figure out what the fish want. So all you basically do is open that bail up, let that jig drift down until you hit the bottom, paying close attention to what the line and rod tip are doing the whole time, because fish will hit the bait as it flutters to the bottom, and that's when you really have to pay attention. And the other time when you have to pay close attention is when the bait hits the bottom. And the reason being is that you'll get snagged and rocked up almost immediately every time if you're not paying close attention and you let the lure drag on the bottom and the rocks. So I will let that lure hit bottom, reel it up a few cranks, if not a few feet, and continue popping the rod, very small little pops to imitate a wounded bait fish, and then I'll let it hang. And usually when the bait hangs is when you get the fish. One hit it pretty good right there. finally, it's a quillback. Okay, there's a quillback right up on the surface. A lot of times in shallow water, these things will just swim right back down to the depths on their own. In this particular situation, the fish is probably pretty lethargic because we're midwinter here and it needs a little help to get back down to that level that they were living at. So what I just did is reach for a speed jig, unhook my hook, hook the little speed jig on there, and the next thing I do after I kind of very lightly rehook that speed jig on the fish's outer lip, I grab this little tool that I came up with, which is a few egg sinkers and an offshore clip, and I clip that on the line, do a couple of wraps around the clip, and send it back down. And you can see here in a second that the water depth is pretty shallow, so it really doesn't take too much time. And doing stuff like this is now mandatory with the regulations in Southeast Alaska. So just plan on, if you're fishing shallow reef structure, to just get in the habit of doing this. And you want to try to do it as quick as possible to get those fish back down. And the key really is not even to handle the fish if you don't have to. You see, okay, so I got the fish down to the bottom. I pop that hook back off, and that's done. That fish is re-released.